New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. And hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
Reverend Michelle Arellano.
And this is New Thought for today, the 4th of February. Here we are already. Groundhog, Puxatawny Phil saw his shadow, which means 6 more weeks of winter for everybody. If you believe in that kind of stuff. But we're here to have a New Thought conversation with someone we've wanted to have on this program for a while, and she has been a very, very busy woman and has not all that suddenly become perhaps a bit less busy, and know that kind of in between things, but I'm loving that because I think it's going to bring us into a really, really rich conversation. Reverend Michelle Arellano, folks, so let's welcome her to the program. And Reverend Michelle, tell our friends and our viewers a little bit, what more do they need to know about you to get started in this conversation today?
All right. Well, it is an honor to be here, and I appreciate the conversation and inviting me on. So I am a minister. I've been a minister with Centers for Spiritual Living for 10 years. I've been involved for about 20 years. When I first started as a little newbie in Temecula with Reverend Dr. Pat Campbell. I have about 30-something years in nonprofit experience, executive director, CEO type of experience, also director of organizational development. So I was quite blessed to be able to take my ministerial hat and my nonprofit hat into CSL as an executive director. I left CSL at the end of last year. And I have 2 amazing sons, and I live in Ashland, Oregon.
Beautiful.
That's me.
And I will kick it off by saying I believe you did great work at CSL at the time you were there, and I want to be very clear about that. That it's I think we all understand the work we choose can have its finicky ways and its different things, and in a great big world that we live in, sometimes things move in a different direction than perhaps we wanted. But again, I think you did a great job while you were there. So I was sorry to see you go.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I guess, one thing we talk about in this show is the evolution of this teaching, this movement, individuals, and if we fall into that in a heart space, it all works out, So now you're going to get a chance to go and share your amazing insights and things with others, and someone else is going to come in, and I'm sure that someone who took over, I may be calling you, because we are one big family. We're one universe, right? There's a unit. Our heartfelt foundational teaching is the unity of one. So even though it may look different, it's still one. And I applaud you for being able to hold that space, no matter what it looked like. And let's take this to the next level for individually and collectively. So, heart.
Yes, definitely. You cut out a little bit. Did you have a question for me in there?
Well, the question is, how given what you know, where do you see us going? In terms of you
No,
taking that forward.
We're gonna jump
I
right to the
appreciate
juicy.
that. Thank you.
We're gonna jump right to the juicy stuff here today, right, Michelle?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Let's
We
just
got
jump
we got to
in.
take
Why not?
advantage
That's
of
what
it
the
while we
world's
have her here.
the world's calling for it right now, right? Like it's calling. Like it's not. It's like this radical love. Love right now is radical. Peace right now is radical. Diversity and inclusion and all of the beautiful things that is about the God attributes is radical right now. And so, I think New Thought as a whole is such a answer to so much of what people are looking for in life. And it was a huge answer for me personally. And I think that we need to evolve. We need to keep evolving. We need to be more agile and we need to work together in New Thought. And I know that there's some people talking about it right now, which I think is amazing. And we love our teaching so much and we love our organization so much. Sometimes it's hard for us to change because nobody wants to let go of anything. And I understand that, but you have to let go in order to embrace something new. And I think change is hard. And and right now it's uncompromising. I mean, it really is uncompromising for us. Everything has shifted in the world, in our country, and so embracing that in a new fierce way as an organization to look and to dive into what's next and to have those hard conversations, I think is incredibly important. And I think sharing resources and New Thought as a whole, what we have is such a gift to bring it out into the world more and more together collaboratively, because everything is moving so quickly, more resources is needed. And for us to keep up with that, shared resources makes so much more sense right now. And why wouldn't we work together? Unity is family, agape is family, and TN is family. Like Emerson, like we're all family. So I think we need to start being family together and doing more together.
Exactly. Folks, anybody that's watched this program now knows exactly why I've wanted to have you on the program for so long at this point, because this is in many ways the conversation that wants to be had. That really must be had. And I remember, and I'm going to go back a little bit now, when I very first got into this movement in 2001, 2002, I remember that my teacher at the time, we, as new students, we were introduced to the fact that there were two organizations. There was United, and there was, and it wasn't even CSL yet at that point. It was RSI and UCRS, and we kind of questioned the minister about it, and his response was, I give it 10 years, because the natural arc of everything is that we are not, the truth is that we're not separate, so we cannot continue to maintain an appearance or practices that lead to separation. And at that time, he was like, I give it maybe another 10 years or so, and this has got to come back together. Well, 02 to 2012, that was 10 years. And we all kind of sat, being friends, sat back and went, wow, he was pretty spot on with that one. And the natural evolution of organizations is what we're in the midst of. Now, you've got 30 years experience in that organizational development. I'm sure you've seen this in other case studies, other places, other industries, other verticals. I don't want to get into the minutia of how we're going to try to change an organization. For me, I want to be in that vision of what does an evolved organization look like? How do we put some people in the seats that are going to bring forward an evolved organization? And before I'll give you another minute to answer to think about your answer there, because I think I just had an experience of this where we were in a board development retreat, and it felt like all the same practices from 20 years ago, and it was. And I don't want to call anybody out in case they were there or watching now, but it felt like nothing had changed. And it only took me a few minutes to find more, I want to say, more evolved versions of the exercises and the things we went through to accomplish a more enlightened version of it all. It felt like it was so easy to be newer than it was to be older. So I guess the bigger question, what do you think is necessary for any spiritual organization to flourish in the coming years in an involved environment? Did I get lost?
I am having internet
I think
issues with all
there's
the
some delay.
snow happening, so I'm hearing some of it.
Michelle's hearing some of it. Okay.
And so I don't know if you're hearing me well, but it's, can you synthesize what you're asking me?
Yes.
I lost.
Oh, there she goes. All right. Let's give her a chance to come back. Z, did you catch my question? Yeah. I picked the wrong day to go off and pontificate.
Yes, I did.
I apologize.
Yeah, no, but I got the question basically, what is the next evolution of organizations, organizational structure, organizational behavior, so that we begin to work more efficiently and effective as spiritual conduits for people to learn, heal, love, and grow.
All right, welcome back, Michelle. Do you want me to have Z do that one more time? He did a great job of boiling down what I was trying to ask.
Okay. Sounds good.
So the essence of it is, what, from your perspective and experience, what are the new organizational behaviors, structures, and movements as spiritual organizations we need to become to affect change in today's world?
Ooh.
Yeah, she's got some bad connections.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Basically, what is the organizational structure that we need now for the future?
Okay, I'm going to answer. I've got so much snow, the internet is so spotty, so I'm sorry about that. We have to become more agile. And so our documents are our founding documents, our ODM, our bylaws, the way our councils are structured, the way the leadership council is structured, the committees, the entire process is it's very organized and it's very detailed, but it's not agile. And so I think the whole organizational structure of the organization needs to be looked at, and it needs to be updated. And I think that we need a consultant to come in, to somebody that has fresh eyes and a new view to look at everything and be able to give feedback. Because what happens sometimes is that it becomes about the person making something wrong or right if somebody's in leadership, and it's not about the structure and the evolution and the change sometimes, which can be easy to do because it's affecting me. Michelle's doing this, she doesn't know what she's doing, I don't like it, or whatever. Like we have the tendencies as humans to do that, but we've got to make tough decisions. We need a reorg, a big time. And then we have this capacity issue where we have such a large, intricate organization where we don't have the resources to fund it. And the way that the resources are coming in are different now. And so that needs to shift too. And so a full organizational assessment needs to be done, in my view, and it all needs to be updated, and the change needs to happen soon, because it's going to be like we're getting behind ourselves, if we don't make this swift change to move forward and really look at everything and not have sacred cows. There's a sacred cow of, yes, Ernest Holmes and Science of Mind teaching, which is beautiful, but how we articulate that in the world needs to be relevant and needs to be diversified, so it speaks to all audiences, so they know that we are all inclusive and all loving, and a way that people can receive it. And so I did I cut out? And there's, and some of it are happening in pockets right now, but I feel like that pivot, like we've got to make that pivot, and we can't take too long to do it, because we're going to miss the pivot, and we're going to lose some amazing people and some amazing opportunities.
Yeah. Now, Michelle, I want to make sure for anybody that's watching, especially on a replay or at another time, you and I are both using the word agile. And I'm not an expert, and I would have to even look up the principles, but I know there is a business philosophy that uses agile as its framework. Is that what you're talking about here, or are we using that word more in the flexible nature?
I'm using it in the way, that's a great question. As we structure ourselves, it can't just, like, we're very center structured, and I know you've talked about this quite a bit, and that's not the wave of growth right now. So how are we speaking to the wave of growth right now, and how do we allow communities to be more agile, and how do we update our ways of moving about things in a more agile way, because it's so cumbersome to make any change. We tried to take the bylaws and clean it up and put them just in bylaws, and ODM just in ODM. That's been a 2-year process. And it's just to bring more clarity, because there's not clarity in the foundation. So that it's both sides. It's agile for the outer and agile for
All right, I think we are getting a little snow there. We're going to come in and out. We lost a little bit of you at the end there, Michelle.
And Robert, and in my world of system development, I think the current phase or the current use of the word agile came from that platform, which speaks to this whole idea of developing something in an iterative, incremental cycle, because it gives you more flexibility. If you set something in software world, if you set something down in stone in software today, by the end of the day, it won't be effective anymore. Right. So from the software development perspective, the agile development cycle is small, incremental, iterative, which is what life does. Right. Iterative just means cycle. Incremental means evolution. And so we have to look at it in that perspective as we grow these organizations, because everything around us is constantly changing. And if we get stuck somewhere, as Michelle said, if we get some sacred cows that are no longer doing what they need to do, then we're limiting not only our potential, but we're limiting the effectiveness of what we're trying to do, I think.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah,
I agree 100%. I agree. And how I think I just have to say this. I think the biggest piece for us to move, the biggest part for us to move, is to be okay with the messiness of change. That's what our teaching is, but we still overall as an organization aren't okay with it. And if we aren't okay with it, then how are we going to do it? Because it changes transformation. It's goo. It's chemicalization. it's not pretty, or it's not easy, and it's not what it used to be. And so that fierceness, it's fierce too, what it takes to change an organization. That piece has to be at the forefront. And I think that moving into a place of calling it out and accepting it together, and knowing that that's the place that it's not going to be pretty rainbows and butterflies without the chemicalization.
Yeah. And go ahead, Robert.
Well, I was just going to say, that's a theme that we talk about here often, that it is going to be messy, and not only messy, but that in itself often requires a more mature understanding and a more mature practice of the philosophy of what it is we really believe. And one of the things I've often questioned is, in a center focused model, a lot of volunteers works, and in other models of ministry, the volunteer becomes that place where sometimes things break down in a way that an immature perspective or interpretation of the message comes through. And I'm wondering if that's something you've experienced or something you've witnessed in your work with communities.
Yeah, there is sometimes a lack of understanding the depth that it takes from like home office and running the organization, and what everybody does, and how many pieces, and all the movingness, and the depth of the intricacies that is our organization. And a lack of understanding of what it takes for this kind of change, right? And so and then the lack of trust. There's a lack of trust, and so it becomes a us and them. Like, leadership is doing this to us, not that this needs to be something done. This needs to be something done for organizational development of the overall organization. Like, there's, and so and that's, it's not just unique to CSL. It's, it is. And communication, there's more and more communication coming out, but I kept hearing people kept thinking they weren't being communicated to, but nobody wanted to open the newsletter. And so it's like this accountability and responsibility and maturity part, like you're talking about, that everybody's got to take their own. I can't just blame you for something that's happening. I got to take my part and say, how can I work with you to help us move through this together?
And one thing I thought about as you both were speaking, and going back to the whole agile thing, in an agile development method, there's a person called the Scrum Master. And if you're familiar with Scrum, if you've ever watched rugby or Australian rules football, there's a scrum. Everybody's together, and everybody's trying to find a leverage, and eventually, out of all of that, the next logical step presents itself. And then you run with it as far as it can go until you run into the next scrum, with that scrum being this container of ideas and efforts that kind of need to be worked out, worked through, and worked over before you make a decision. But once the decision has been made, you move. And what the agile approach does, because we know it's iterative, no one's feelings should get too hurt. No one should get too invested in anything. And that allows, I believe, an organization or individual, if you're doing it with yourself, to be able to have a discerning approach and a contemporary ideas about how life works. I mean, because if we look at nature, that's what it does. It does exactly that. So here we go.
I'll just try to determine if Michelle's with us or still a little frozen. Looks like she's still a little frozen. So, no, I like that. See, and right, that helps to understand. Oh, there she is. Hey, wait a minute. Now what's going on?
I think we got her back.
So interesting. Are we all back?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Somehow
Okay.
another tab of mine turned on with music, so now I'm back too. Okay.
One of the things that I do want to say, just I don't know if there was a question because I cut out again, and I apologize. The leadership, the staff, director, board, like everybody are amazing people. The communities, the people that are involved, there is so much love. There is so much care and concern and passion for our organization. There is such beauty. There is such beauty in the family that is Centers for Spiritual Living, and we have a lot to build on when we focus on that. Like everybody wants the best for this organization, and I think that that is such an incredible base to build from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's for me
I
and
just
my
wanted to bring that in here.
No, thank you. Thank you for presencing that, because for me, that is something that, as a focus ministry and as a rather vocal, sometimes renegade type of voice, I have to not only remind myself, but remind the people in the organizations that I serve that it isn't ever a person thing. It's never a people problem. Everybody is doing what they know with the best, and if anything, all of these things are an opportunity for us to consider, how would we do it differently if we were in those shoes? Would we do it differently if we were in those shoes? And how, again, I think part of the overarching, the way New Thought takes you, if you follow it, if you live it, is in evolving and emerging the organizations that we serve. That's how we change the world. We get clear for ourselves, we get our own stuff put together, we get best we can, and then we work with organizations so that we're all be operating from a more enlightened perspective and consciousness. So I'm looking, I'll say this, we're just about to take a break, folks. So, of course, we finally seem to all be in the room and it's time to take a break, but we're still going to try that and let the internet cool down for a minute and see what happens. But here's what I want to share before we do that. I'm really excited to learn more about, and we may not have those answers today, but to learn more about what comes next for you, Michelle, where you're going to be able to take this great nexus, this great gift you have in organizational development and evolution, along with what you know of not only science of mind, but the New Thought movement as well. Yeah, we're going to have more of that right after the break, folks. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
New Thought Media Network proudly presents the 2025 Season for Nonviolence 64-day meditation series, January 30th through April 4th. New meditations published daily at 6 a.m. Eastern Time on our YouTube channel. Join us as we carry the vision of a world that works for all. Only on New Thought Media Network. Learn more at www.ntmedia.org.
Join our celebration of Black History Month. Only on New Thought Media Network. New videos every day at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, or watch anytime on our YouTube channel. 28 unique Black history moments. Every day in February. Only on New Thought Media Network.
And we're back with more of New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network. Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. Our special guest, Reverend Michelle Arellano. And so before the break, I was kind of hitting on the door. I'm really excited because you now you've done your service to CSL, you've done your service admirably to CSL, and now you're in a position where I know you're not going to make any decisions right away, but I also have to believe there's probably a bigger vision at play. And I'm excited to know if there's anything you can share. Where's this all leading for you? What do you see as those next steps, not only for you, but maybe for New Thought as a whole?
Okay, great. So for me, I am taking some time off, but what I'm feeling starting to come through, and I'm doing some visioning right now, which is great with a group of people, is doing ministry work and doing some nonprofit work, possibly creating my own focus ministry. And what I'm feeling is this anchoring of peace and love and sacredness within ourselves, like at a level that we've never done before, like at such a deep rooted level, so we can be there for our family that's going through so much in the world, and doing the inner peace workshop for the community in Ashland last week just really sparked a lot in me, and how incredibly important it is to do that individually for ourselves, do healing work, do shadow work, do forgiveness work, like do a cleansing like we've never done before, so we can go out into the world and be what we are calling in. We can be that love, we can be that healing, we can be that love and that peace, and work with others. And so I am that I'm on right now, and I'm doing some health here now as well, which has been fun. And then so for me, I have given myself until March before I make any decisions. Everything cut out again.
No, you good. We hear you.
We got you. That atmosphere.
While that internet, yes, is causing some atmospheric problems. But I was going to say, Michelle, you were talking about the cleansing. I was going to say I'll invite everybody here now and in the future. Ramadan is coming up at the end of this month, and it is a perfect time to go within and to have a mental, physical, and spiritual fast and reconnection with all there is. That's what the fast is about. And so however you can honor that is a great place to be, because it fasting in any manner, whether it's from food or technology or from noise, it gives us a chance. And then what I think I hear you saying is to connect with what's current for me right now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, but what's current for me right now, and how do I cultivate it and bring it forth in due season.
Perfect. Yeah, we are our own unique divine footprint in this world that it is calling for right now. And so our biggest job is to be that. It's more important how we show up than what we do.
Yeah.
And that came through me big time, and this space that I've had for myself and how important it's been. And I am doing the healing, and I'm doing forgiveness work, and I'm doing all the things to clear me and my heart so I can give and give at a greater level. And I've got to start with me. And I think sometimes that gets forgotten, and I know I forget sometimes.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah. So are you hearing me well now?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. We've got you.
Yeah. Good. Good.
You're reminding me that that I have my work to do, because you said Ramadan and I went, I need a beginner's version of that fasted thing, dude. I just can't. I've watched you for too many years that I cannot enter. Do not have the consciousness that says I could do that. So I think we need like a slim down, easy, lazy man's version of the fast. But you remind me that I've been working on a pamphlet that lines up the five daily prayers of Islam with the 5 steps of spiritual mind treatment. And the first prayer, the dawn prayer, is a prayer of recognition. The midday prayer is a prayer of unification. The afternoon prayer is a prayer of realization. The sunset prayer is a prayer of thanksgiving. How appropriate, right? It all fits. And the nighttime prayer is a prayer of release. And there are so many. If we just open our eyes and look around, there are ways that we can. And I want to be careful not to do that co-op thing, right? Not to appropriate the tradition and the culture, but to look for where we can line up, make our movement, make New Thought kind of line up with the great traditions of time.
Well, and I love that. So we'll have to work on that. That's a whole ball of wax right there, brother. And there and once you've been around the block a couple of times, as they say, you can present. There is only one, right? There's one thing that gets manifested and displayed in different ways based on environment, right? The idea of God in the rainforest is not the same idea of God in the desert. In the desert, they want rain. In the rainforest, they want sun. And so now, right away, from two different environmental perspectives, two people finna go to fighting over one thing that's appropriate for the environment. And the more we can show that, the more we can do that individually, organizationally, like, we're talking about New Thought coming together. It's just a different expression. It's the 360-degree circle, and we got people on all different points of that circle. Everybody sees something different, but there's an overlap. There's a commonality. There's a foundation, the 60 degrees that we're on. And that's what we have to begin to focus on, not these little tangents that happen, because they will always happen. We can't see the whole thing at one time.
You spark in me again at just one of those examples that there's so many opportunities right now, I believe, for the new. I'm looking for a word. All right, here we go, gang. I'm looking for a word to replace tribe. Because right now, and family, because right now, if we look at the environment of, quote, the New Thought movement or philosophy, there are about a dozen major outlets. And in this philosophy of oneness, it is not sustainable for there to be 12 different organizations all doing the same thing. And what I've sort of noticed is that of these 12, and it's easy to call them the 12 tribes, right? There's CSL, there's Unity, there's UFBL, there's Hillside, there's Agape, there's INTA, there's AGNT, there's ANTN. Now there's New Thought Media Network, and tomorrow there'll be another one. All of these various organizations, I think intuitively we all know that we're all one. And so when we start to see duplication is where we can break down the boundaries, is where we can start to soften the silos. And I've been long saying we need to get rid of the false belief in denominationalism that is in New Thought. And I ask questions like, why is the Science Mind magazine not talking to Unity Village about publication and printing of a magazine? Because I know they just turned around science and spirituality and health, purchased a toxic property, turned it around, and is making it a viable vehicle. They might know a little bit more than we do right now about how to publish a successful magazine. And if we all sort of get in our lane, as it were, working together, working in collaboration, but recognizing where the strengths of one organization end and another one picks up, I think there's real possibility for New Thought to make a difference in the future of human consciousness. But if we keep playing this denominationalism game, if we keep playing this, we're better and we got it, and our one of these is better than your one of these, I don't think it's attainable. Michelle, did we lose you? Or are you going to jump in? She's going to jump in.
I agree, 100%. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully, I'll last long enough to say something. The shared resources. I mean, think about what we could do in the world together if we share resources, and if we have a little bit of different flavor over here than this one, it's still all ice cream. So, it's Neapolitan or it's Rocky Road, and that's good. Like, we don't have to make ourselves different anymore. And it's interesting because the operating model is the operating model that needs to be updated both individually, collectively, and organizationally, right? Like all of them. We can't keep doing the things the same way that we used to do them. And really just and I feel like it's got to be fierce. And I think coming together could be fierce. It could really shift things fast because it would make things clear, like you said, where are the resources and how do we best utilize those to come together? And the magazine's a great example, and there's so many other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
there's this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, just put an accent on that there's the saying, many hands make light work. If we're all trying to carry this philosophy, this idea, this thing forward by ourselves, it becomes very heavy. But if all of us are picking up the one thing, moving it together, then we can get to what you was asking about, I think, Robert. How do we get rid of the tribes and everything? There's the Christian a moniker, if you will, the body of Christ, right? And so we have to become the body of the idea of the Christ, the enlightened one, the one that shows the way, and begin to work together just like our body. We got different organs and systems in the body. When they work together, we are healthy. When we are not working together, it's called disease. And so we have to figure out how to move beyond that. And I love the idea you gave back at the beginning, Michelle, in that, we have all these small organizations that have a receptionist, let's say. Why? Get them people to do something else. Let's get one receptionist for 3 organizations, if you will. Now we can get better results, utilize people better, and we just have to start thinking outside the box.
Lindsay, while we wait for Michelle's internet to connect back in, one of the places where we are seeing that is in various partnerships around the country between Unity and CSL communities. And it's happening in Las Vegas, happening in Nashville. I forget where, but I just heard of another one yesterday, and I know others that are in these types of conversations of what does it look like to share those resources, be it space, and these communities, from my understanding, are very aware that what they're really doing is blending two cultures into a new form of oneness, because they are intentionally looking to share the audience, which I think has always been, that's one of Michelle, I think that'd be one of those sacred cows you were talking about, is my audience and how many, and the number of people in my church. And that was always so to blend those and say, hey, all these Unity folk, it's cool to come to the CSL thing, and CSL folk, it's cool to this intermingling of denominationals, if you will. This intermingling of folks is important, and it's happening whether we like it or not. So I would say get on board.
Yeah.
And it is happening in a lot of communities. It happened here in Rogue Valley, and so I agree 100%. I mean, it's natural way to bring together, and more and more and more of that.
Yeah, and it's like, I often hear people talk about things being commingled, and then it's gonna become homogenized. Well, yeah, that's a possibility. However, everything inside my body right now is commingled. My heart, my lungs, my kidneys, it's all commingled, and they all know what they're supposed to do. So putting things together to work together doesn't inherently cause a problem. It's, and there's tons of examples of where that is exactly what's needed. And that's how we have to begin to look at this thing, I think.
I remember many years back now, at one point I was on a kind of a kick that said, I want to be a religious science fundamentalist. I want to go back and we're seeing some of that in the Unity movement right now. We're seeing some ministers that are saying, I want to go back. We're going to be strict on the words of Fillmore, and I want to be. And I had this idea, we're going to be strict on the words of Holmes, and I forget who it was that came to me and said, do you realize how many doors you're closing by saying that? Yeah. Do you realize how many options and opportunities you're not even going to entertain because of a strict adherence to something that was an amalgamation of all kinds of stuff, and was borrowed from everybody in town, and was a bit of this and a little bit of that, and was the best of the world as Ernest knew it, or as Emma knew it, or as the Fillmores knew it. And so for me, I think we're at that time where it's really, really important we keep that kind of lineage going. And it's not to say there isn't a place for the history. There is absolutely a place for the archives. There is absolutely a place for a Fillmorian church. There's absolutely a place for a religious science fundamentalist community, if you want. But for me, I like being out in this imaginal cell place of creation, this place of witnessing amazing people moving the movement forward, moving our understanding, our embodiment, our activity around the philosophy forward, taking it out into the world. I love witnessing that, being a part of it too. I would have to venture that the future looks bright.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that you just reminded me very starkly, when I was about to finish ministerial school, and someone asked me in a leadership position, what was I going to do? I said, well, I'm going to be an Islamic religious scientist. And they said, no, you can't do that. I'm like, say that again? I said, you can't do that. So I said, oh, so you're telling me I've been practicing Islam and ancient Egyptian traditions for 30 something years almost, and you telling me I gotta throw all that away? And that's not what New Thought is. New Thought, from my understanding going through the teaching, was to take these sacred teachings that were everywhere and give a new idea, give a new perspective, give a new way of approaching them, so that we eliminate confusion and friction and create more harmony and love. And so, I'll never forget that as long as I live.
I remember the very first time, Z, that I saw you do a full Islamic prayer off the stage at Mile High, and in full, if I remember correctly, in full robes and regalia and the whole 9 yards. And it was a sight to behold, because I remember going, he did it. He just was an Islamic religious scientist in front of the world off of one of the biggest stages in New Thought. Yeah, always good thing.
Life is grand if we let it be.
Exactly. Folks, it's about that time again where we take another quick break, say hello, and thank you to our sponsors and our organizational donors and all of that. But we're not done yet. We're going to come back and trust that the snowstorm holds out for just a few more moments, and we'll get another opportunity to speak with Reverend Michelle. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this. Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. Yes. Thank you to all of our organizational sponsors and individual donors. It's thanks to folks like you that we're able to take this New Thought message out into the world and have these types of conversations with amazing beings on the planet, such as our guest today, Reverend Michelle Arellano. Reverend Michelle, it's been so great being with you today. Is there anything that you were hoping we would talk about, or that we would chat about or get to, that we haven't gotten to or talked about today?
I think the conversation has been amazing. I missed some of it because of my internet, but there's not a lot I can do about that. I just have appreciated being here and having this very, very important conversation.
Thank you. Yes.
The other piece that I think too is that, did I cut out?
Nope. Go ahead.
Am I back?
Yes. We have just enough lag to make it.
Can you hear me? Okay. It's so crazy. Like, the world's crazy and this feels crazy. It's like inner outer, so inner outer right now. Everything being reflected, right? Like in such a wild way. And I think that brings me to like what CSL, what New Thought, what we're going through individually and collectively is this inner outer journey. And the time is now. The time is now for us to make this pivot and for us really to roll up our sleeves and get comfortable with messy change, because the world's calling for us. And I appreciate that you bring these conversations in and you look at things from different angles and views and continue to talk about how we can be better together. And that's exactly what this conversation was talking about, which I truly appreciate. We are better together, and more better, more together is what we need. And more love.
Yes.
I like more better, more together. I like that. And more love. Yeah, beautiful. All right. Well, it seems like we've gotten our final thought from Michelle, which is great.
Yes.
She's leading us off on that today. Let's go to Z next.
Yeah, Michelle kind of summed it up, more better, more better. And I just say those things that belong together get together. So the idea and the fact that we are beginning to have these conversations with the other New Thought organizations, and strides are being made, and alliances, if you will, are being made. We need to keep doing that in an agile way, because we know it's going to change tomorrow. So don't hold too tight. As they say, don't hold life too tight, or you'll squeeze the life out of it.
Oh, there we go. That sounds like one of those lines your father gave you. So we're going with it.
Yes.
I love this conversation as well, because for me, it's refreshing to know who else, and that there's so many others that are looking at not just how do we go along to get along, not how do we salvage something, not how do we fix what is already there, but how do we step into that place of what wants to be. And I'm a huge proponent of the visioning, of life visioning. And to me, that was always part of the essence of the questions, is not what has to be or what's going to be, but what wants to be. What is it the divine wants of me, of us? And as we're now learning in David Alexander's book, the fifth kingdom, what is it that spirit wants of the we, of the collective? And we get to figure that out in conversations such as this, and in all of the programming I think you'll find here on New Thought Media Network. So again, Reverend Michelle, thank you so much. We trust you'll come back sometime when it's not snowing in Ashland, right?
Yeah.
I would love to. I would very love to hear everything that you're both saying. But the parts that I heard, I very much appreciated. So thank you.
Well, there we go. So, folks, if you'd like to hear what we just said, you can catch all of it on the replay on YouTube. This will be in the playlist for New Thought today. You can catch the replay at any time. Thanks for being with us here today. We love you. We appreciate you. We hope to see you again real soon. Stay tuned in all that we're doing here on New Thought Media Network. Until next time, we wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.